Hello escrimadores and escrimadoras. I'm making this short video today to share a new balisong that I recently bought, made by Kershaw. That's my parrot in the background. And I'm going to do a little mini comparo between the Kershaw and my original 1980s Pacific Cutlery balisong that was made here in Southern California back in about 1986. So back in the early 1980s, a gentleman by the name of Les Diasis, who is the president and founder of a company known as Benchmade Knives today, he started his own cottage industry knife company that at the time was called Pacific Cutlery Corporation. And over the years, Pacific Cutlery evolved into and became Benchmade, and went from being based in Southern California, it ended up relocating to Oregon. So anyway, this knife here represents a real quantum leap in the quality and production level of balisongs. The balisong is a traditional knife from the Philippines, and earliest recorded examples date back to the late 1800s. The idea for the balisong is believed to have probably come from a French Navy measuring gauge, which was a three-piece design just like the balisong, but instead of having a blade, it had a measuring scale. So it was used in the Navy. It was often used for measuring powder charges, etc., in the old guns of that time. So the original balisongs that were made in the Philippines came from a town called Batangas in Luzon, the northern part of the Philippines. And the original balisongs used the three-part handle construction. There was a sandwich construction. They often used a bone scale, brass bolsters, and then brass liners, together with the pins for the handles and the pin for the blade locator here. And the first, I guess in the West, the first anyone became aware of them was probably in the aftermath of World War II, when a lot of servicemen were returning to their home countries who had been in the South Pacific theater, and they brought these knives back. And at the time, we often call them balisongs today, but at the time they were known as click-clack knives, for this basic reason, really. Sort of self-explanatory, really. So what Les Diasis did was he reinvented the balisong, or re-engineered the balisong, and he came out with this design of handle, which is a solid stainless steel bar that had been fully machined. It had this slot milled into it, which is where the blade would fit, obviously, and drilled handles. A big hole and then two small holes, big hole, two small holes. So these knives were sort of like the Rolls Royces or the creme de la creme of balisongs in the world, really, and they still enjoy a tremendous collector's appeal today. These were produced in California from the mid-1980s up until about 1987. Pacific Cutlery relocated to Oregon and renamed themselves as Benchmade Knives. Now, these early balisongs were almost all hand ground by a knife maker by the name of Jody Sampson. And he was based in Burbank, California at the time. And this particular blade design, this particular grind, is known as the Weehawk design. And as you can see, it's kind of like a full single edge and a part swedge at the top. The grind lines on this thing are beautiful, really. As you can see, you kind of got this hollow grind here. You've got the hollow grind on the top swedge, and you just have this really nice solid construction. These Balisongs that were built at this time, these were just built to be, you couldn't take these apart. Basically, you would clean in here with a pressure hose if it needed cleaning, and lube it up, and that was kind of it. That was the maintenance on the knife, and then touching up the edge and giving it a sharpen. These knives are beautifully made. They are mainly handmade, because back in the day at Pacific Cutlery, everything was basically hand done. The channels in the handles were milled on machines by individually, each one. All of these drill holes were drilled by hand on a drill press. So these things were expensive at the time. I think I paid something like $250, probably $240, $250, something like that, back in the late 80s. And soon after, Pacific Cutlery stopped producing these knives, and they were no longer these hand ground blades anyway. So this one is, it's lucky that I've probably survived. I had 3 Pacific Cutlery Balisongs back in the 80s, and I gave 2 of them away, and this is the only one I kept. And hindsight gives you 20/20 vision. I'm really glad that I did keep this. So this was state-of-the-art construction at that time. This was the Rolls-Royce of Balisongs, really. And it's just, when you handle this thing, it's heavy. It's all stainless. It's very well constructed. It has a nice action. The handles swing pretty hard. But basically, once this knife was constructed, you couldn't disassemble it. So Pacific Cutlery at the time did offer a factory refurbishing service, in which they would refinish the blade and the handles if necessary. They could take the pins out, drill the pins out, re-put new pins, etc., etc. This knife has never been serviced or whatever. I've kept it in basically very good condition. So let's have a quick look at the Kershaw now. So, like as I said, when I bought this knife back in the late 1980s, this knife cost me about $240 to $250 US. And here's another little thing too that's worth having a look at, I guess, is that you'll see the logo here on the blade. It says Balisong USA. Then on the other side it has the butterfly, which we now associate with Benchmade knives, but that also has Balisong. So as I said, these knives were primarily handmade at the time. So the blades were ground by Jody Sampson, and the handles were all made by the guys that worked in the shop here in Burbank at the time. Now, recently, I picked up this knife. This is a brand new current production knife by Kershaw, and this knife is known as the Lucha. As an evolutionary piece, and the way that technology has changed and developed over time, it represents 21st century technology as opposed to the old original with the 20th century technology. Now, there are pluses to that, and there are sort of, I guess you could almost say there are minuses to it too. The way these are constructed and the way these are manufactured this is still a very similar knife to the original Pacific Cutlery, in that it's all stainless steel. The latch, the handles, the blade, etc. The big difference here is that everything on this knife is CNC machined, which means computer numerical control machining. That means 2 things. That means that these knives are all basically identical. These are all clones of each other, and they're made of very good materials. I mean, these stainless handles feel brilliant. The latch mechanism is superb. Pins on the blade are gorgeous. You can see these lines. You can see the main edge, and then the main grind of the blade. You can see the top swedge, and you can see onto the spine of the blade. And it's just beautifully made. It's just a gorgeously machined and designed blade. This one can be taken apart. It has some of the advances that you would expect. Not only is it numerically computer controlled machining, which gives you absolute clone-like consistency. It can be dismounted. It has pins that can be removed here. It has a new design feature that's evolved in the last 20 odd years, which is called Zen pins, which are these pins here. And the way that functions is that you'll see that this has a projection from the base of the blade here, and those two Zen pins bite onto that projection and hold it in place. And then when it's closed, you see the notch at the end of the blade right here, this notched area here at either side of the blade. Again, the Zen pins relocate there and close the blade up. So there is almost zero handle play on this thing. There are micro bearings within these pivots here, both sides, and it means an incredibly smooth and free moving knife, and it doesn't sound the same as the old blades. Because it's tighter, it doesn't tend to click-clack in the same ways that the old knives did. It's a beautiful piece, and I mean, I'm stunned at how good this knife is. It's a really superb knife. It's really well made, and the value for money is incredible. So, as I said, the old blade here back in the 1980s, this was selling for around $240. This knife now, the list price on this is about $150. But through some of the online dealers, you'll find you can pick this up for about $120. So that, to me, represents incredible value for money. It's a beautifully made knife. And if you were to ask me which of these two I prefer, I would probably go for the original Balisong, because there's a lot of sentimental value to that. These Balisongs subsequently, over the last 30 odd years, have become very valuable. So this particular knife in this sort of condition, if I included the original leather sheath, which I have, which is again in very good condition, it's worth more than $1,000, perhaps as much on a good day, maybe $1,200. Obviously, something like the Kershaw, new production knife, you can pick it up for $120 new. You could probably pick these up on the second-hand market now for $100 or less. And this is a superb value knife. And the way I look at it is this, really. As a collector piece, the original Pacific cutlery is the knife you want. That's the knife that you want to keep and stash it, because it's going to increase in value. But for a daily carry or an everyday use knife, this is a perfect example of where the state of the art exists with blade craft right now. So this Kershaw is, as I said, a beautifully made knife. It's got so many features on it that just make it sort of streets ahead of where technology used to be back in the 80s. But there's a clone-like quality to these newer production knives, because they're all CNC machined, therefore they're all identical copies of each other, whereas in the old Pacific cutleries, they were all superb knives, but you could see individual marks. Like you could notice that the grind lines varied on some of them, and the drill holes varied slightly. I mean, I'm glad that I own this piece. It's a great piece to own, but if I was going to, as I said, as a daily use, daily carry, daily everyday use knife, this is the way to go. Something like this new Kershaw. And we seem to be going under a bit of a renaissance with Balisongs recently. So Benchmade do make some superb Balisongs. Companies like Kershaw have this model. Custom makers that are building knives, like a name that comes to mind is Jerry Hom. He makes some really, really superb Balisongs. Once you start breaking out of this Kershaw range, it goes very vertical very quickly. So some of the custom makers, it's not uncommon to be paying $400, $500, $600 for a knife. So to me, just as I said again, as a daily carry knife, or as just a really superb quality, usable Balisong, I would aim for this Kershaw. This is like a brilliant value at $120. The Balisong is a traditional Filipino weapon, and it's a weapon that we do use in Eskrima. So we will be doing some tutorials on these in the future. Opening techniques, closing techniques, and effective use of a balisong as a combat weapon. Anyway, hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching.